Off
This
this evening.
conference will now be recorded.
Thank you very much for getting the recording started. First of all, welcome. Happy New Year to everyone across Canada. This is another Naval Association of Canada Speakers Evening, the first of the new year. And we're more than happy to have Mr. Denis Stevens from Seaspan talk to us tonight. Before we get into introductions, I'll just say a few words on behalf of the association. We've got 84 registered for this evening's event, and we're up to about 49. So we're doing pretty good in that respect. Of course, everyone's aware that these are all done as part of the Naval Association's Naval Affairs program, if you will. I'm the president of the Ottawa branch, and I'm also the director of the Naval Affairs program. So I have to do a little bit of a pitch on behalf of the program to thank our sponsors across the country. And these are the folks that were more than willing to sponsor us in 2022. And I'm be looking forward to having them come back for 2023. We'll be doing things a little bit differently this year because we do have the opportunity to do a Battle of the Atlantic Gala dinner, something that we in Ottawa are very much looking forward to. This is a shot from a few years ago when we had the opportunity to honor the remaining World War II Battle of the Atlantic vets. So, great group of folks there. And unfortunately, a few of them have passed on since this photo was taken. But if there are any left, we hope to have them join us uh, in May when we host the Battle of the Atlantic Gala dinner here in Ottawa. And I urge members of the association across the country, think about it. If you have the opportunity to get to Ottawa in the time frame around the 3rd of May and attend the dinner, that would be great to have a few more folks show up and share in the festivities of the dinner. One of the things we'll do during the dinner is present the Admiral's Medal, which will be going to Rear Admiral retired Ian Mack. And I just want to say another bit of a sales pitch. We want to start looking for nominations for the Admiral's Medal recipient for this year. So, in fact, if you have someone in mind, if you think there's somebody deserving, please look at the national website and have a look at the instructions and consider making a nomination. There'll be more to follow on how the nomination process works, etc. But I just wanted to mention it this evening as something that goes on throughout the year, and we come up with a selection process, and towards the end of the year, as we did in December, we announced the winner. So in this case, it's as I said, retired Admiral Ian Mack. Couple more slides here before we get on to the presentation tonight. Another reminder about the National Naval Reserve Monument being refurbished here at Dow's Lake in Ottawa. They're still collecting donations. They've got about 186,000. I think that is about maybe 70,000 short of what they're aiming for. So you can always make a donation to the Reserve Monument Project. You can see the website there. A lot of good information about it at the website and links to where you can make a donation. So now on to our guest speaker tonight. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Mr. Denis Stevens, Vice President of Government Relations at Seaspan Shipyards. Denis is a native of Montreal, has extensive experience in the public service. Early on in his career, he held management positions in the Departments of Justice, Indian and Northern Affairs, Public Safety, and the Privy Council Office. No stranger to the higher echelons of Canadian government, Denis also served as Consul General of Canada in Seattle and Deputy Head of Mission at the Canadian Embassy to the US. He was also Director General of Intergovernmental Affairs and Public Outreach when Global Affairs was known as DFATE back in those days. Denis joined Seaspan Shipyards as Vice President Government Relations in August of 2022. Prior to joining Seaspan, Denis was at Treasury Board where he advised on major defense projects and he led Canada's advocacy strategies to promote trade interests in the US, including NAFTA negotiations. Denis earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in International Relations with great honors from Harvard University. He also holds a law degree and a Master's of Business Administration from McGill University. In Seaspan's Ottawa office, Denis is responsible for developing and maintaining strong relationships with the Government of Canada, the Province of BC, regulatory agencies, and key decision makers on behalf of Seaspan. This work supports Seaspan's efforts to be the recognized leader and trusted partner in shipbuilding, design, repair, and conversion for Canada. Denis is going to present an overview of Seaspan's organizations in Canada and their unique roles in providing continuous support to the RCN and the Canadian Coast Guard vessels, and the personnel and the families on the West Coast. He will also provide insight into the status of current shipbuilding activities within Seaspan. And I know tonight he's going to be assisted as required by Rear Admiral retired former DGM EPM and cause ADM Matt Chris Earl. So welcome to both Chris and to Denis, our guest speakers for tonight, primarily Denis. I want to make one further comment, a reminder that the events tonight are under Chatham House rule of non-attribution. We will have a Q&A session at the end. If you have questions that you wish to pose, please type them into the chat box and I will moderate and present the questions to our guest speakers once they've finished their presentation. So onwards and upwards, I'm now going to switch my screen so that Denis and his team can do their presentation. So just hang on a second while we get through a little bit of technical detail here. Of course, it's the one thing that I can't quite see on my screen. There we go. Okay, so I'm stopping sharing and it'll be going over to you folks. Anything coming up yet? Yes.
Very good. All right.
All right, so just one more thing. Please turn off your video, turn off your cameras if you're not a presenter, and turn off your microphones so that we can hear the presenters without any background noise. Denis, over to you.
All right, Tim, thank you very, very much. And thanks everybody for letting me come to speak at your first meeting in the new year. And happy 2023 to everybody. As Tim mentioned, I'll be joined by Chris Earl, and I was delighted and relieved to see his face pop up a moment ago. So I know I'll have some expert assistance. In the room, I'm also joined by Stan Jacobson, another former naval person who's the assistant vice president for government relations in our Ottawa office. So between Chris and Stan, they'll hopefully keep me out of trouble and, more importantly, help to ensure that we give you the most complete answers to your questions later on. During the presentation, provide an overview of the Seaspan organization, focus in particular on our in-service support for the Royal Canadian Navy at Victoria Shipyard, and then talk about our work to construct large vessels for the Navy and the Canadian Coast Guard. Bottom line up front, Seaspan organization, thanks in no small part to the partnership we have with the federal government under the National Shipbuilding Strategy, has become a significant national security and economic asset for Canada. And as we emerge from the pandemic, we're poised to get back to the positive trajectory we were on before the COVID pandemic disrupted the entire sector. Go to the next slide, please. So Seaspan is part of the Washington Companies, a consortium of companies owned or co-owned by U.S. businessman Denis Washington. Of the various components of the Washington Companies, the two that are most relevant to Canada are the Southern BC Railway and the Seaspan entities. Seaspan organization in Canada has two main business. I promise after this slide, my charts become a lot a lot simpler and less complex, but bear with me here. So two main businesses, Seaspan Marine and Seaspan Shipyards, and each of these two businesses has three separate entities. I'll quickly touch on what each of these businesses does in the next few slides, but to provide an interesting comparison, the Royal Canadian Navy on the West Coast has, I think, about 15 vessels, including submarines, and approximately 4,000 military and 2,000 civilian personnel, so approximately 6,000 people all in. Seaspan owns and operates approximately 45 vessels and 60 barges, and we employ around 3,000 people on the West Coast. So Seaspan has 3 times as many vessels as the West Coast Navy fleet and approximately 50% of the manning level. Though I recognize those are not apples to apples comparisons. Turning to the next slide, Seaspan Marine and Ferries. These entities serve the Vancouver Island supply chain with critical commercial ferry service, including a daily ferry service between Vancouver's mainland and Vancouver Island. With a fleet of over 100 specialty and general purpose barges and tugs on Canada's west coast, our fleet provides critical transportation for many of British Columbia's largest industries and major marine construction projects, and does it safely, reliably, and on time. These two organizations bring approximately 60% of the goods transferred from the mainland to Vancouver Island. And from a Royal Canadian Navy perspective, much of the food, clothing, spare parts, new equipment for vessel refits and modernization is transported to Vancouver Island by Seaspan. Turning to the next slide, Marine Petrobulk. Since 1980, Marine Petrobulk has supplied all grades of bunker fuels to vessels entering the ports of Vancouver, New Westminster, Victoria, Prince Rupert, Kitimat, and Nanaimo. Seaspan Shipyards comprises 3 facilities: Vancouver Shipyards and the Vancouver Dry Dock in North Vancouver, and Victoria Shipyards where Chris works. If we turn to the next slide, Vancouver Dry Dock provides services for conversion, refit, repair, life cycle maintenance, and refurbishment work for naval research and commercial vessels, including cruise ships and deep sea vessels. Now we turn to Victoria Shipyards, and here I'm going to turn it over for the next few slides to Chris to tell you more about the work that he and his team are doing out there.
Thanks, Dennis. Yes, good evening, everybody. Chris Earl, I'm the Vice President Project Delivery here at Victoria Shipyards. So really what I'm charged with is delivering basically the in-service support program that we do here in Victoria for the Royal Canadian Navy. As many know, we operate at the public facility known as the Esquimalt Graving Dock. And there are, on this slide, there are a series of stats with regards to what that dry dock looks like. Effectively, it can be divided into 3 sections, and many might be aware that section 1, which is currently 400 feet in length, is currently being extended by almost 105 feet to accommodate a Halifax class frigate in a single section. Previously, when the frigates were in the dry dock, they occupied section 1 and section 2, which really limited the utility of that remaining section and reduced capacity overall. Next slide, please. So in terms of what we do here in Victoria, really 4 broad categories. Specific to this presentation today, we maintain Canada's West Coast fleet of Halifax class frigates, so 5 frigates based here on the West Coast. And we also have the submarine refit facility to maintain all 4 of the Victoria class submarines. In terms of international work, many might be aware that as a follow-on program to the Halifax class modernization, which completed in 2015, Seaspan Shipyards undertook the upgrade of the 2 Anzac frigates of the Royal New Zealand Navy. and that was completed last year with Tamana delivered back to the Royal New Zealand Navy for post midlife operations. And in addition to that, we also have quite an extensive cruise ship and commercial work program, which really sits interspersed amongst basically our annual in-service delivery operations, and we'll periodically get 2 to 3 cruise ships a year, a number of commercial fishing vessels, and it really provides an array of work to maintain the workforce that we have here in Victoria. Next slide, please. So in terms of the submarine program, Victoria class, I think everybody's quite familiar with the quality requirements around the Victoria class. A lot of activity over the last 14 years to bring in basically an experienced workforce to deliver that capability for the Royal Canadian Navy. I think collectively we accept that we haven't necessarily delivered what the program was looking for from a maintenance point of view, but we are committed to improving performance and really building the capacity that will be needed once Canada transitions from the Victoria class to whatever comes next. Next one, please. So the Halifax class, many might be aware that the Halifax class is now at the end of their planned service life. Those platforms were originally designed for a 25-year service life, and we're now rapidly approaching 30 years on all of the platforms. As a result, basically the hull work, the system work, we've seen exponential growth here on the West Coast, much like what they've seen on the East Coast over the last 5 years. And that has resulted in HMCS Regina's docking work period, which is the platform we're about to deliver in the next couple of months back to the Navy, almost reaching 1 million person hours of activity to get that ship basically ready for operations for the next 5 years. What that will mean is it'll mean that we need to change the way we do business going forward, noting the other work that we do here for the submarines, for the commercial fleets, et cetera, and the limited docking windows, noting that it's a public facility. There is an initiative over the next year and a half working with our partners in government to ultimately understand how we're going to have to change delivering that maintenance to ensure that the 5 frigates based on the West Coast remain operationally ready as necessary. Next one, please. This one is just really an overview of what was done for the Royal New Zealand Navy. Large upgrade package similar to the Halifax class modernization work, and delivered in consort and in partnership really with the fleet maintenance facility here on the West Coast. There is other naval customers out there that are looking to the Esquimalt graving dock, noting limited large dock availability around the world, and obviously Canada is our primary customer, but where we can, we will help. Next one, please. And this is the last slide from me, just really around the commercial business. And the key message is because of the limited large dock capacity on the West Coast, really there's only 2 facilities out here. The facility here in Victoria, and then the facility known as Vancouver Dry Dock, which Denis spoke to briefly. Very important that these large ships have access to a place in the Pacific Northwest here in Canada where they can dock if they need to. And the picture on the right is the Midnight Sun. That is a large roll-on, roll-off vessel that provides 85% of the goods that go from mainland United States up into Alaska. and there's two of those vessels, and they're a long-term customer for us, and so the importance of the Esquimalt graving dock and the services we provide cannot be understated. And I think that's it for me, Dennis.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Well, stick around because I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. And I noticed that the attendance kept growing while you were talking, so people probably heard you were on the line. It was just going to be a former Treasury Board guy, which would scare everybody off. So thanks for joining again. Now let's turn to the next slide, please. So there you have it. Last but certainly not least, Vancouver shipyards. And that's where, under the auspices of the National Shipbuilding Strategy, we're building large and highly complex non-combat vessels for the Navy and the Coast Guard. So just a reminder of a few of the milestones in the National Shipbuilding Strategy and our relationship with the government. So in 2011, the Government of Canada selected Seaspan to build Canada's non-combat fleet. Washington companies invested some $85 million to modernize Vancouver shipyard and create a purpose-built yard to deliver the entire non-combat package under the shipbuilding strategy. In 2015, we cut steel on the first offshore fishery science vessel for the Coast Guard. 3 years later, 2018, we cut steel on the first joint support ship. 2020, we delivered the Coast Guard ship John Cabot, which was the third and final offshore fishery science vessel, and that completed delivery of the first full class of vessels under the National Shipbuilding Strategy. In 2021, we cut steel on the Coast Guard's offshore oceanographic science vessel, and last year we cut steel on the second joint support ship. Next slide, please. Here you'll see our complete book of work under the NSS, all the ships I just mentioned. Building a first of class ship is challenging at the best of times. It's pretty rare to have a shipyard with 4 first of class ships on the go at the same time. So those are the 4 you see to the right of the offshore fishery science vessel. The other thing to note about Seaspan's book of work is that until you get to the 16 multi-purpose vessels, what we're building are small runs of ships. That just makes it more challenging to benefit from the learning on earlier ships and achieve greater efficiencies than is possible when you have a longer run of ships. Next slide, please. The offshore fishery science vessels, as I said, those were the first class of ships delivered under the National Shipbuilding Strategy. We delivered these 3 ships over a 15-month period, which is I think a really remarkable demonstration of the positive trajectory that Seaspan was on before the pandemic hit. All the more remarkable, the third ship was delivered during the pandemic. And just to give you a sense of it, that ship is about 63 meters in length. Next. So having just lamented the challenges of small runs of ships, I will point out that by the time we delivered the third offshore fishery science vessel, we'd achieved a very high and efficient standard. In fact, we'd exceeded the world-class norm for percentage of completion at launch. So we were on a pretty significant upward trajectory in the last few years. Next slide. So there it is, the JSS at 174 meters, the longest naval vessel ever built in Canada, and of course critical to maintaining a modern, efficient Navy. I've got the model of it behind me, which is maybe even cooler than the picture. And as I said to some of you who are on early, if you ever want to drop by the office, we have all sorts of models, and we'd be happy to show them to you because they are extremely cool. With the retirement of the Navy's previous support ships, it's been relying, as you probably know, on an interim commercial vessel capability, the Asterix, which provides capability, more limited capability, but does allow the Navy to keep doing training as well to maintain critical skills. Next slide, please. So this picture of the joint support, the first joint support ship, was taken just this past November. The construction and outfitting is proceeding, and it is on a path for delivery in 2025. If you're interested, you can regularly find updated information about the ship's progress along with the latest pictures on our website, seaspan.com. Next slide, please. So we're progressing well on structural consolidation of the first joint support ship. In fact, more than 90% of the blocks are structurally complete, and more than 80% have been erected to the hull. Lessons that we've learned during the construction of the offshore fisheries science vessels are being applied to the construction of the joint support ships. As an example, we're focused on increasing pre-launch outfit levels within each block associated with cable and pipe installation. And we're continuing to invest in improvements at the yard to increase our shipbuilding capability. And we're also applying lessons learned from the first JSS to the second one, resulting in some substantial performance improvements in building the latter vessel. The offshore oceanographic science vessel will be Canada's most modern science research vessel. Overall length is about 88 meters. At the end of last year, work had begun on all but one of the ship's 38 blocks, and consolidation will ramp up this year. So the Polar Icebreaker, that's the flagship of the Canadian Coast Guard's icebreaking fleet. Overall length, 150 meters, so not too far behind the JSS at 174 meters. Early engineering and design work are on schedule and budget, and the vessel's on a path to delivery by 2030. Applying lessons learned from earlier work under the National Shipbuilding Strategy, the Coast Guard has invested in making the ship simpler to build and has addressed critical design elements. So achieving a high level of design maturity ahead of construction is a key enabler of more timely and cost-efficient delivery. So in addition to learning and applying our own internal lessons at the shipyard, we're learning how to work more effectively as a team with our federal partners. Next slide, please. The multi-purpose vessel is the backbone of the Coast Guard's maritime capability. It'll be able to carry out a variety of missions from ice breaking in moderate ice conditions, assisting in shipping and springtime flood control in the St. Lawrence Seaway and the Great Lakes, search and rescue, and maintaining Canada's marine navigation system. Overall length is about 100 meters. Next slide, please. At Vancouver Shipyards, we're doing more than just building ships. We continue to invest in the next generation ecosystem for the marine sector. Under the National Shipbuilding Strategy, we've made value proposition commitments across three pillars: human resource development, industrial development, and technology investments. So this slide highlights some of the investments we've made recently, including, as you see at the end, trying to develop an interest early on among students in becoming the next generation of ship designers and shipbuilders. That the National Shipbuilding Strategy is working at Seaspan. Together, Seaspan and Canada are progressing on all of the strategy's objectives. They're listed on the left-hand side of the slide. More specifically, despite the pandemic, which disrupted our entire sector, Seaspan never closed. We stayed open, kept advancing our programs. We've delivered ships. We've driven economic growth. We've built a robust cross-Canada supply chain of more than 700 businesses, and we're continuing to invest in and advance the marine industry in Canada. We're applying lessons learned and making investments in our continuous improvement we've created jobs and developed our talent pool, and we made progress across all of our shipbuilding programs. This has been thanks in no small part to the partnership we've had with the Government of Canada under the National Shipbuilding Strategy. Together, in a relatively short period of time, we've reestablished what was frankly a moribund shipbuilding industry on the West Coast. It hasn't been easy and it hasn't been perfect, as I'm sure you've noticed, but our various Seaspan organizations together represent a national asset, an economic one, as well as a security one, and that's increasingly important. I'll submit at a time of growing global instability. So, Tim, that's kind of the overview, and Chris and Stan and I'd be really happy to take any questions or observations, or just have a conversation as you see fit. But thank you again for giving us the chance to present ourselves to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dennis and Chris. Excellent presentation. Lots of updated information, which, you know, us folks that are in and around the industry as well as just members of the association, we like to be, you know, trying to keep ourselves up to date on all these various programs, and you've certainly given us that tonight. It's been a while since we'd heard from C-SPAN, quite frankly, and we're really happy to have you present tonight. I do see a few questions coming in. I always take the privilege. Aha! I think it works. Right, so that concludes our evening for tonight. I want to thank the C-SPAN team, ably led by Dennis and assisted by Chris and my good friend Stan Jacobson. Stan, in particular, I want to thank you for persevering in helping me arrange this event. It's been a couple of years since I started bugging you and asking you, hey, I'd like to hear how things are going on the West Coast with C-SPAN, and the team has done that and more tonight in terms of giving us a good overview of where things are and where things are going. So thanks very much to the team, Dennis. Bravo
Tim,
Zulu
thanks.
from the
Yeah,
Naval
thank you very much
Association.
again. Thank you very much again for the invite, and for letting me come so early in my tenure. If you invite me in a couple years, I won't say I don't know so much, but anyway, again, um,
Hey, for
hope to meet a number of you in person, and all the very very best to everybody for 2023.
great. Well, I still see there's about 49 people. They're starting to leave quickly, so I want to get out two more messages. In terms of concluding remarks, there are a number of people who I noticed in the registration tonight. Great to have you out here, but I'd also like to see you renew your membership for 2023. So please get on with that. Second point, our next guest speaker on the 6th of February will be the Deputy Minister of D&D, Mr. Bill Matthews. So more information coming out on that. I appreciate everyone's attention and cooperation tonight. The session went quite smoothly. I normally have Barry Walker here to help me manage it all, and without him, I thought it was going to be a bit of a challenge, but it worked out really well. So I'm quite pleased with that. So once again, thanks to everybody. I'm going to end the session in just a couple of seconds. I'm going to turn off the recording right now if I can figure out how to do that. I don't see a button to do that. Anyway, we'll leave it up and running for a few more minutes in case anybody has any uh, further comments, as we kind of normally do a bit of an open forum at the end of these events, and then we'll wrap things up. So that's the end of the official presentation tonight from C-SPAN. Once again, gentlemen, thank you very much. Well done.
Tim, it's Colin. How long before the official notification of the 6th February event will come out?
We usually try to get things out about 2 weeks before. We
Okay.
have had confirmation from the DM's office that he's still available. As you know, Colin, some of these things can get the rug can get pulled out from underneath us at the last minute, but so far so good.
Yeah, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Any particular topic, or is he just going to be from the DM's perspective?
It'll, I think, be the DM's perspective. Of course, he'll come armed and prepared to, talk Navy to us. Uh, with all the things going on in the headquarters these days, I'm sure he'll have a few things to say. I attended a meeting back in late November in the Carlin campus, NDHQ, and the biggest thing on their plates was HR. So he may have a fair amount to say about that. It should be interesting to see what he does say.
Thanks. Yeah, I think you called it right.
Okay, nice to see a few more comments coming in thanking us for the event. Chris Robinson, we didn't have a chance to check in with you, but glad to see you join us later in the evening.
You'll
Always a
notice, you'll
pleasure.
notice I kept my mouth closed.
I wasn't going to say anything about that.
I would say, and I didn't see who asked the question about asterisks. I didn't see it in the comments. Um, but the gear on asterisks is fairly similar to the gear that will be on the new protector class. So those that served on the old protector class will remember that it's all hydraulic and valve hand operated stuff. And you go into asterisks now, which is similar to how the new protectors will be, and it's all computer screens and joysticks and really space age stuff. Well, certainly for an old person like me, it seemed pretty space age. So the skills that they're learning operating asterisks are definitely transferable over.
Thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, that question was posed to me privately, and I don't see it anymore on my screen, so I can't identify who actually asked it.
Yeah, no worries.
But it
They're
was a good
welcome.
question,
They're
but a
welcome
little
to
bit.
reach out to me and ask if they have further questions. I did spend probably about 75 days on asterisks when I was fleet commander, so I have a bit of familiarity with the ship. But happy to talk about it if they want.
Sure thing. They, it was a bit of a tough question for the folks at Seaspan that were talking at a different level in terms of their presentation. It was more oriented to somebody like you to answer it, quite frankly.
Totally, totally. And tell them to save their questions, and when it's my turn to speak, I will happy to defer
And,
everything.
and when would you like to come back?
Just send me an invitation.
Okay. I should tell you we're starting to get our minds around what we might want to write or do for a conference next. So obviously, I'll be keeping you in mind.
I happy to participate.
Great.
Tim, it's Colin again. I was happy to see them address the dry dock aspect so much. I'm beginning to see more and more recognition of dry docks, both static and mobile, as a strategic resource, particularly since any ideas of a short war have been blown apart by Ukraine, and therefore battle damage repair is becoming more significant a topic. Checking through with some sources within government and associations outside